Dear Rental Scale Up members, thank you for joining us. I'm here with Marc Ribail. Marc is director at Rentivo, and he's bringing us great expertise about the Southeast Asian market, especially Bali, but especially Thailand, because he lived there for a long time. He's got a very great personal, professional experience there. So Marc will be able to tell us about how the markets are usually, what the Thai market is like, for example, in terms of holiday rentals. But also, we'll be focusing with him today about the recovery. What to expect in terms of recovery for the bookings, what he's seeing now through the data he has, but as well as maybe the difference between different markets of origin, who will be traveling first, what to expect. And if you're a property manager with a lot of European travelers, you'll be very keen on hearing from him what's right now on the mind of European travelers. What do they know? What do they don't know about Asia, for example? And can they even travel or fly to Thailand, for example? So without further ado, Marc, thank you for being with us. And how are you?
Thank you very much for having me, Thibaut. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
So obviously we both speak French, but we'll speak English for the sake of our listeners. So Marc, maybe can you give us some background, because as I said, you know Thailand pretty well, and that would help people understand where you're coming from and how come you know so much about the market.
Okay, thank you. Yes, indeed. I lived in Thailand for about 18 years, and I spent most of the time working in either as a hotel manager or also in the property management and marketing. So and then this is after working in the property management for about 7 years. This is when I created my company to develop a management system, Klik, as well as a marketplace which covers Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Bali, with about now 1,400 properties. And finally, we also started to provide marketing representation services and marketing consultancy to property owners and property managers, which we carry on at the moment.
And right now you're director with Rentivo, so it means you are really bringing this knowledge of the market, also of the tech side of what's going on behind the scenes. And with that view, basically, you are able to give us some ideas about what's going on in the market. And I think you've built actually a very conservative view of what's going to happen, right? Things going to go back, but not that fast. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yes. So the idea is like we're looking at like every company, be a system provider or management company or marketplace or OTA. We're all looking at data to actually try to set up a view of what will happen. So in our case, we have information coming from our management system because we have a fair few clients in Thailand and Bali. So we see the booking trends. We have our marketplace, as I explained, so we can see how where people are coming from, what are the source markets, and the evolution for the past 18 months. And finally, we also, as we provide marketing consultancy or representation services, we speak to a lot of booking agencies. We manage the OTA's accounts, and we see equally the volume of inquiries coming in for this year and next year. So the view is like, I think for Asia specifically, there are three, I would say 2.5 markets. There's European source market, there's a Asian regional source market, and Australia, which is a little bit different. So I'm going to start with Australia because that's the quickest, I think. Australia will from what we see, will not authorize massive traveling outside of Australia before 2021. So I think Australia is one of the largest source market for Bali. Sadly, this will not happen this year. It will happen very likely next year. For Thailand is not so much. Thailand and the rest of Asia not so much impacted because of the distance of traveling and the cost of travel. Now for European travelers, there's been just to go back a bit of history. During the 2008 crash, there was a massive and sudden decrease in number of travelers from Europe to Asia for obvious reasons of economical reasons. So this downfall was compensated at the time when it started 2009 with the massive influx of Chinese tourists. Okay, so the view we have at the moment, and taking in considerations other information from medias and other sources, is that there are several factors which I think will limit the volume of travel and the comeback of European travelers. The first one is the obvious cost. With looking at flights, the flights for next year look like they are at the moment 30 to 40% more expensive than it used to be, which when you're a family of 5 or 6 or even 4 represents a certain increase in terms of budget. Okay. The second element is the possible recession and the uncertainty about how big, how strong will that recession be. And everybody is adopting a conservative view on this and saying, okay, those who have been affected economically by the COVID, they will keep their savings. Those who were lucky enough were able to carry on working, they may consider, say, okay, let's just wait in. What is the risk that we have of falling into the trap of this recession? Is our job at stake? Yes or no? Okay. So this is real, but also psychological. So keeping everything close to the chest. The other element is the fear of a possible a second wave just before the winter. Okay, as we've seen, Europe has been more affected than Asia, and people say that, I mean, the surveys or the stats say, or the medical experts say that the weather is impacting the way the virus is being spread as well. Okay, compared to Asia, which was in a more tempered or warm climate. So whether it's true or not, this is to be debated, but we're not going to talk about it here. Okay, but there is this fear because when you read the press, there is this not constant but continuous repetition, like there may be a second wave, and therefore creating uncertainty. Okay, so all of these factors are and the last factor is that if you've been to Asia, you know exactly how it works. Okay, you know how the food is, you know how the service is, you know how the streets are, if the streets are clean or how they're clean, and all of this environment which we were used to when we traveled there, for us is normal. For people who have never been to Asia and who may have the wrong perception that they are this developing country where actually they're very developed, it could be an added factor that maybe make them think twice whether they would go back they would go to Asia or not.
And I think, Mark, a good example of that is wearing a mask or not, right? As we if you've ever been to Asia, whenever somebody has a cold, by out of courtesy, they would wear a mask. It's not something completely weird, and it's something that's only getting now to Europeans. But so there's, to your point, right? So there's probably a perception for some Europeans that maybe the measures in Asia have not been strong. How much do Europeans know about the measures that have been put into place, or how bad the virus was? Do you think there's a good level of information about that?
No, that's another point as well. We within Europe, we know very well how neighboring countries have handled COVID. Okay, it's very simple because there's been a lot of communication. There's European community and everything. However, we have seen very, very little information about how the Asian governments have handled the COVID situation. Okay, and I would say that vice versa is the same for. In Asia, you have very little information except the massive number of lethality and cases which can be scary for Asian travelers coming over to Europe. Okay, so it's two ways as well. So there is also this lack of understanding and seeing that knowing how Asia has dealt with it. In addition to this, I think there's another small element which is SARS. Okay, SARS 2003, 2002 and 3 was mainly Asia, And there is this kind of, but because of this, because of SARS, every single Asian country has policies in place on how to tackle such epidemic, okay, such virus. And you mentioned the fact of wearing masks. They don't just wear masks when they have a cold or anything. Like if you see people cooking, they wear masks just out of pure cleanliness. Asian people are very clean in a sense, a lot more than some of our European counterparts. But and therefore it's normal for them, and they have handled having a lot of, I've not been to Asia obviously for during the COVID, but having a lot of colleagues and friends and clients, we've been talking a lot, and the way they have handled the COVID was extremely well, and probably better than some areas in Europe, because wearing the mask is a normal thing, and it can help a lot. So so that's the aspect regarding the cleanliness of Asia.
And another aspect, so again, we're reusing your time here because you can really give this perspective on Europeans traveling or not. Um, another point I believe is that European governments are also basically telling people not to travel internationally, or they are very pushing people to book domestically for real or bad reasons, good or bad reasons. Not judging here, but it's happening as well, right? Clearly, a push for domestic bookings.
Yeah, I think I think it's a word of caution from from each European government saying. I mean, in France, they literally say, "Do not plan to travel abroad." Full stop. Okay, let's go and rediscover and support the tourism industry within France, because the tourism industry is one of the industries that has suffered the most. Okay, so therefore it's like, stay in France, enjoy France. There's a lot to see and a lot to do, and beside this, there's also another slight. The word of caution is also, in case there is another wave during the summer or just before the summer, we don't really want you to be stranded because it's very expensive. And we've seen people that have been stuck in Asia for the past 3 months. They have to make do. They had to find accommodation at a reasonable price, which they can afford, and basically stayed 3 months. And you've seen countries like Thailand easing the rules regarding immigration laws. Because normally when you come to Thailand, you have 1 month stamp, and you can only extend by another month or 2 weeks, I don't remember exactly. So, but they've extended it up to 3 months to allow to accommodate the people that were stranded. Because catching a flight when there's nearly no flights between Asia and Europe is very expensive. It becomes absolutely not affordable.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Like in Bali, there's a lot of Russian people who either don't want to come back to Russia or just can't because there's only few emergency flights available. It's just impossible to get on that. So that's the situation with Europe. So as you're saying, so this because maybe people won't have money or fear they won't have money. They are fear of this second wave, as you mentioned. So like maybe some lack of knowledge about how safe it is in Southeast Asia at the moment. All this basically makes you feel very conservative in terms of the recovery.
Yeah, I think it will. I think the rest of 2020 will be very difficult for. I mean, the perspective of welcoming European guests in 2020 will be, and we see it with the booking trend at the moment. This is quite early, still a little bit early, because countries have just started to reopen, right? So the end of confinement in Europe starting in May. In Thailand, they started to resume domestic flights a few days ago, May 15th. So it may be a bit too early, and that's why I'm saying it's conservative, but just it's always better to have a good surprise than a bad surprise. Okay, but I think that the recovery of European travelers is more likely to happen in 2021 than before the end of this year. There's still a lot of properties available for Christmas and New Year, obviously, because this February to May is the booking period for the end of the year. So there may be a good surprise there, but it's still a bit too early. So I would say, yeah, let's just plan on the European recovery of travelers coming back to Asia next year.
So is it safer for Christmas to bet on Hong Kong or Singapore travelers, for example?
Yes, completely. I think the that's the other region. So Asian regionally, because like in Europe, there's a lot of communication about how things were handled in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Bali, in Sri Lanka, and cases in Singapore and everything. So I think they are a lot more confident. They know this country. They've been traveling already regionally, so they would be a lot more confident to travel. Okay, this will be conditioned with the number of flights that would be made available between from one country to the other, or even domestically. For example, within Thailand or from Hong Kong to, because all the flights, for example, between Hong Kong and Koh Samui, I've been I've stopped. But there's still flights coming from Hong Kong, Singapore. So it's there's a lot more. There's a higher chance to have some kind of a season this summer. Okay, with the regional travelers than the rest of the world, definitely. Okay, and Christmas and New Year, yes, because there's I think we will see an adjustment in the prices. You will see a lot of um, so some promotions, some discounts being offered to fill in the gaps, to fill in the villas, and a lot more flexibility as well. We already see that some property managers have implemented COVID rules in terms of cancellation, in a sense that if uh, the flights are cancelled or there are travel restrictions, not a travel warning, but the travel restrictions from the source market governments, then the people will get their money back, or they have the choice to postpone their stay for the next 12 months as opposed to 9 months like it was before. So we see, so there will be an interest from the regional market. There will be a very likely price reduction. There's not such a thing at the moment. All the promotions end at the end in mid-December, but we will see, I think, later in the year, in a couple of months, some prices coming down, and greater flexibility in terms of cancellation.
Last question as well is in terms of domestic travel. What's interesting, for example, when I think of Indonesia, there's always been a lot of domestic travel. People, especially booming in 2000s, 2010s. People coming from Jakarta to discover Bali, or people going from one island to another. Obviously, it's not the same kind of travelers. It's not, maybe the purchasing power is a bit lower. They may not hit
Correct.
luxury villas, although some people in Jakarta can completely afford luxury villas anywhere in the world. I'm not sure about the market in Thailand, for example. I don't know whether there's already a strong domestic market that would support villas, for example, or it's mostly cheaper options. What do you think here would be the case?
It'd be more cheaper options, because the disparity between the wealth and the wealth spectrum is quite great. It has a much lower population than Indonesia, so there's less people that have middle class or upper class. But Thai people love traveling, so they will travel, but they will not necessarily be able to stay in luxury villas. So mostly like bungalows, hotels will provide massive deals. That's for sure. And there's always a special price for domestic market anyway. So that's a very custom marketing policy, to have specific pricing for domestic markets.
And is there any channels that people should be opening up or using more to capture more of this either regional or domestic demand?
Yeah, I think in Asia you see Traveloka has been pushing a lot for promotions. Expedia as well. Expedia has been coming up OTA in Asia, and Thailand more so, for what I know. They are very active in basically incentivizing for better rates, for promotions, for flexibility. Agoda, even though the sad news of the reductions in the number of staff, it's a bit structure. It's very good for the regional markets. being based in Singapore and Bangkok. So I think these are the go-to platforms I would recommend definitely.
All right, that's thank you so much, Marc, for this overview. I mean, I know, thanks to your personal experience in the market, to the current view you have through the tools and your, management system, marketplace, and the advice you're giving now to high-end property managers, you're really able to give us some trends. So it's a very conservative view, but on the other hand, I think that's what we all need to hear. Calmly said, like that's what to expect. And this also, I think, were great insights into the mind of Europeans, right? What to expect, and also thinking about different channels to activate. So obviously, you are very active in the market. So if people want to reach out to you to know more about, your expertise or know about the tools, what's the best way to connect with you?
If simply by email, send me an email at marc with a C at rentivo.com. And I'd be very happy to spend some time in giving some advice or giving some insight or support any thoughts that conversation. So, but I think it's just one final touch. I think I have a conservative view, but I think there's also a lot of cohesion and a lot of joint work between the management companies in Asia. They're very quite solid. Even though they're competitors, and I think there's an opportunity here to have a joint message, find a way to have a joint message by approaching booking partners so they can help communicate what is happening, because at the end of the day, most of the properties, most of the villas in Asia have got living staff. Therefore, the cleanliness is very different. And the approach of the service is very different, and it can be reassuring as in the meantime for travelers who are not 100% certain. So communication is essential, definitely. So whether it be via email campaign or on the website or anything like this is very, very important.
Yeah. Thanks, Marc, for this extra tip on communicating around cleanness, staff, and making sure people are reaching out to guests or people who are even thinking, and communicating on the conditions of a stay in luxury villa if people have never been there. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope to see you in person.
Soon enough.
You take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.